It is Wednesday, November 24th, and you know what that means? It is New Comic Book Day. For those of you that are new here, my name is G.I. Joel, and I love comic books so much that I quit my full-time job to pursue my dream of owning my own comic shop and making content full-time. So let's go ahead and dive into my spoiler-free review of some of this week's hottest new books. So to start off with DC Comics, I actually don't have any titles that I'm reading from DC Comics this week. Doesn't happen very often, but it happened this week. There were some great books that came out: Task Force Z issue number 2, DC vs. Vampires issue number 2, Superman 78, Flash issue number 776. But I'm not reading any of those titles on a regular basis. I'm just, decided to skip some of them. Doesn't mean that they're not worth reading, and doesn't mean that you shouldn't check them out at gtxcomics.com. So as you can imagine, without DC Comics, a rather light week for me. So we're going to go ahead and start off with this week's indie comic. So first up from Boom Studios, we have House of Slaughter issue number 2. So in this issue, Tinian continues some really excellent world building. I would say that's the thing that sets apart Something is Killing the Children and House of Slaughter. It's its exceptional use of world building, and Tinian's doing a great job. And in this issue in particular, we delved a little bit deeper into the character of Jace Boucher. And it is not too late to get into this series. As you can tell, the art is great, the writing is a lot of fun, and if you're a fan of really in-depth, thorough, outbuild worlds, like, this is a perfect read for you. Even if you haven't read Something is Killing the Children, even if you're not super familiar with what's going on over there, I've only read volume 1 of Something is Killing the Children, right? I dived into House of Slaughter issue number 1, and I feel totally informed as to what's happening. So by issue 1 and issue 2 at gtxcomics.com, if you're looking for a great indie series, this is the one you need to read. And then next up, my favorite comic currently in production, we have That Texas Blood issue number 12. And, this is the wrap-up final issue of the current story arc that we've been on, dealing with, like, this satanic cult and these kidnapped victims and everything. And it's finally wrapped up in this issue. It was a great story arc. It was definitely, I think, better than the first one. This means that issue 13 could be a good entry point for you. If you want to jump into That Texas Blood, if you want to read what I consider one of the greatest comics being printed right now, issue 13 is going to be your entry point. So now we're going to jump into this week's Marvel comics, starting off with Black Panther issue number 1. If you are familiar with the comic book version of Black Panther, this essentially picks up immediately after the Ta-Nehisi Coates run. But if you're not familiar with Black Panther in the comic books, feel free to jump in on this issue. You really can just dive in. It kind of recaps everything that's happened, gives you an idea of where Black Panther currently is in the Marvel Universe, and was a great entry point for the character. So yeah, this one is written by John Ridley with art by Juan Cabal. The art was great, the writing was fantastic, and I'm really excited to see where this series goes. And they did a really good job in this first issue of all the number 1s I read this week from Marvel of setting up some really fantastic and interesting storylines. We have T'Challa coming back to Earth, and he doesn't really know where his place is, right? Wakanda has now become a, new democracy. He was recently, chosen to be the chairperson of the Avengers, and he also has his intergalactic kind of responsibilities, and he kind of feels torn between them, and he almost seems like he's a little uncertain of where to dedicate himself to, right? He's only one man. He can only give so much of himself to each task. So which one does he put first? So I'm really excited to see them kind of work out this balance within T'Challa and work out him trying to, figure out where his priorities lie. But they also did add this great element of like a spy noir political thriller to it all, which I am super stoked to read more of. I don't want to spoil it because it is kind of a big part of the story. But yeah, there's like some spy action, there's, politics involved, and it's really interesting, and I'm really excited to see where they take it. All right, next up for Marvel Comics, we have Thor, issue number 19 from Donny Cates and Nick Klein. So this is still the very beginnings of a new story arc. If you did read issue 18, if you didn't read issue number 18, issue 19 can be a good jumping in point for you. Thor still does not know where Mjolnir is, and essentially he's just gone to Odin to get his help in finding it. The art in this issue was phenomenal. I mean, Nick Klein has been killing it this entire series. In this issue, for some reason, it really stuck out to me a lot more than some of the other ones. Maybe I was just paying more attention to it. I'm not sure, but I really enjoyed the art for this issue. I really enjoyed the writing, and I'm super excited to see where Donny continues to take Thor. And it looks like we're calling back some things that came up earlier, like Black Winter and the things with Galactus. So I'm curious to see kind of what happens next. So we're set up a really interesting kind of area area for us, and I'm ready for him to dive in. All right, next up for Marvel Comics, we have yet another #1 issue. We have Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, issue #1. So this was a great introduction to Kate Bishop. Gives kind of a good overview of her origin and all the things that have happened to her with, the Young Avengers, the West Coast Avengers, and all of that. So it kind of sums up all that stuff real nicely for you in the beginning, and is a great entry point to see kind of what her character is like. Overall, the story seems pretty straightforward. Investigation, conspiracy, spy type stuff, which you would expect from a hero like Hawkeye to be taking on. So not super exciting in that area. But this is great if you want to get to know Kate Bishop better, if you want to know what her comic book counterpart is like now that we have the new Hawkeye show coming out today, I believe. This is a great jumping in point to get to know her character and kind of get a feel for what she's like in the comics, and that can make the show a lot more enjoyable for you. All right, and last up, we have the one everyone has been super excited for. I know I have personally. My easily pick of the week, we have Hulk, issue #1 from Donny Cates and Ryan Ottley. So this is definitely the hot book of the week, and that is for good reason. Donny Cates is taking Hulk in an exciting new direction. He is changing things up, and I am super excited to see what he does with it. So to kind of sum up what is super exciting about this issue, they're essentially treating Hulk like a spaceship being piloted by Bruce Banner. So they're really playing with the idea of the mindscape and a mind palace and stuff, which played a really heavy part in Immortal Hulk. And I'm excited to see Donny Cates give his kind of twist on it and his version of it. So I'm super excited to see what he does with that. And of course, Ryan Ottley's artwork is perfect for Hulk. It's brutal. It's just action packed. There's so much detail and so much going on. Perfect storm of awesomeness in this first issue. This is a great series. This is a great jumping in point to read Hulk, to get to know what's going on. I am super excited for where this series goes, and I am just like beyond wondering what's going to happen next. They set up some really amazing things. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but Hulk looks amazing. He looks, super fierce. Bruce Banner is like insane. I love it. It is a huge exploration. And ask a really simple question. Does Bruce Banner protect us from the Hulk, or does the Hulk protect us from Banner? Well, that is it for New Comic Book Day. Let me know down in the comments. What are you reading this week? What are you picking up? I would love for a chance to connect with you and get to talk comics just a little bit more. Be sure you hit that subscribe button and bell notification so you don't miss any future updates or episodes, and I'll see you later.